Dr. Elena Vasquez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stared at the massive object buried in the Antarctic ice. 3 months of careful digging had revealed something that should not exist. The metal surface gleamed with a strange blue light that seemed to come from within. It was perfectly smooth, showing no signs of rust or damage despite being frozen for thousands of years. "This can't be natural," whispered Dr. James Park, her research partner. He ran his gloved hand along the curved surface. "The metal is warm to the touch, even in this cold." Elena nodded. The object was enormous, roughly the size of a football stadium and shaped like a teardrop. Strange symbols covered parts of its surface, glowing softly in patterns that seemed almost alive. The government had sent them here after satellite scans detected unusual energy readings beneath the ice. Now she understood why they had been so secretive about the mission. "We need to find a way inside," Elena said. She had spent her entire career studying ancient civilizations, but this was beyond anything human. The craftsmanship was perfect, as if the entire structure had been grown rather than built. As if responding to her words, a section of the wall suddenly became transparent. Beyond it lay a corridor filled with the same blue light. Elena and James exchanged nervous glances. Neither of them moved for several seconds. Well, James finally said, "We came here to explore." They stepped through the opening, which sealed itself behind them. The air inside was warm and breathable, somehow fresh despite being trapped for millennia. The corridor led to a vast chamber filled with strange devices and what appeared to be control panels. At the center stood a crystal pillar, about 8 feet tall, pulsing with gentle light. Elena approached the crystal carefully. As she got closer, the symbols on its surface began to move and change. Suddenly, images flooded her mind. She saw vast space fleets moving between stars, civilizations rising and falling, and something terrible approaching from the darkness between galaxies. "Elena!" James caught her as she stumbled backward. "What happened?" "I saw them," she whispered. "The ones who built this place. They're trying to tell us something." The crystal pulsed brighter, and suddenly, the chamber filled with a holographic display. A being appeared before them, tall and graceful, with large eyes that held deep sadness. When it spoke, Elena somehow understood every word despite the alien language. "If you are hearing this message, then intelligent life has evolved on this world," the being said. "We are the Cathani, and we are dying. Our civilization spans 1,000 worlds, but we cannot escape what comes for us. We leave this warning for those who will come after." The hologram showed images of space that made Elena's heart race with fear. Massive ships moved like a swarm of insects, each one larger than Earth's moon. They consumed everything in their path, stripping worlds of all resources and leaving empty husks behind. "They are called the Devourers," the Cathani continued. "For millions of years, they have traveled through our galaxy, feeding on the life and energy of entire solar systems. They move in cycles, appearing every few thousand years to harvest what is grown in their absence." Elena gripped James's arm as the images showed world after world being destroyed. Civilizations that had reached the stars were crushed like insects. Nothing could stand against the Devourers' technology and endless numbers. "We have calculated their path," the alien said. "Your world lies directly in their route. They will arrive at your star system in exactly 4,000 of your years from the time this message is received." James staggered backward. "For 1,000 years? That's impossible to plan for." The hologram seemed to hear him. "We know this seems hopeless, but we offer you something we wish we had possessed. Time to prepare. Within this structure, you'll find our complete technological database. Learn from our knowledge, improve upon it, and perhaps you can succeed where we failed." New holograms appeared, showing incredible machines and weapons, ships that could travel faster than light, and energy sources beyond human imagination. Elena realized she was looking at the work of a civilization millions of years more advanced than humanity. "Do not make our mistake," the Cathani warned. "We believed our individual worlds could stand alone. The Devourers defeated us because we were divided. Only by uniting your entire species can you hope to survive what is coming." The message began to fade, but the alien's final words rang clearly through the chamber. We give you our knowledge and our warning. Use them wisely, young ones, for the future of all life in this galaxy may depend on your success. The hologram vanished, leaving Elena and James alone with the crystal and the weight of impossible knowledge. Around them, panels lit up showing star charts, weapon designs, and scientific principles that would take human scientists decades to understand. We have to tell the world, James said quietly. Elena shook her head. Who would believe us? And even if they did for 1,000 years, no government thinks that far ahead. But as they explored the alien database over the following days, Elena began to understand the true magnitude of what they had found. The Cathani had given humanity a complete blueprint for survival, if they were smart enough to use it. When they finally emerged from the structure, Elena carried copies of the alien data on specially designed storage devices. The technology to create these devices had been included in the database, along with instructions for building the machines needed to read them. Back at the research station, Elena and James sat in stunned silence as they processed what they had experienced. Finally, Elena picked up the satellite phone to call their government contact. "This is Dr. Vasquez," she said when the connection went through. "You need to send a much larger team down here. And you need to call the United Nations. All of them. Did you find something significant?" The voice on the other end asked. Elena looked through the window at the distant glow marking the alien structure. "We found a warning about the end of the world. And maybe if we're very lucky and very smart, we found a way to prevent it." As she waited for the response, Elena began making lists of scientists and world leaders who would need to see the alien data. For 1,000 years seemed like a long time, but she was beginning to realize it might not be nearly enough. The first 100 years after the discovery were the hardest. Governments argued, scientists fought over the alien technology, and many people simply refused to believe the warning was real. Wars still broke out over resources and territory. Some leaders thought 4,000 years was too long to worry about, that future generations could handle the problem. But Dr. Elena Vasquez, now in her 70s, never stopped pushing for action. She had spent decades studying the alien database and understood better than anyone what was coming. Before her death, she helped create the Guardian Council, a secret organization dedicated to preparing humanity for the Devourers. The council worked quietly behind the scenes, placing members in key positions across governments, universities, and corporations worldwide. They shared alien technologies slowly, carefully, making sure humanity could understand and improve upon each discovery. Fusion power plants replaced fossil fuels. New materials stronger than any metal allowed construction of massive space elevators. Medical advances extended human lifespans and improved intelligence. By the year 2500, the first permanent colonies were established on Mars. The Red Planet became humanity's first major step towards spreading across the solar system. Using alien terraforming technology, engineers began the slow process of creating a breathable atmosphere. Underground cities housed millions of people, all working toward the common goal of species survival. The moon was transformed into something far different than anyone expected. On the surface, it appeared to host only research stations and mining operations. Beneath the lunar crust, however, engineers constructed the most powerful weapons platform ever imagined. Gravity manipulators and energy cannons were hidden within fake craters and mountain ranges. The entire satellite became a disguised fortress, waiting for the day it would be needed. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, became humanity's shipbuilding center. The icy surface had vast underground facilities where new types of spacecraft took shape. These ships looked crude and simple from the outside, but contained technology that would have amazed the original alien builders. Humans had taken Cathani knowledge and improved it in ways the dying race never imagined. The asteroid belt became a maze of hidden bases and weapons platforms. Each rock that seemed empty actually housed defense systems and supply depots. Mining operations extracted resources while secretly building fortifications. By the year 4000, thousands of asteroids had been converted into mobile battle stations, ready to move when the time came. Throughout these centuries, humanity itself began to change. The old divisions between countries and races gradually disappeared as people focused on the greater threat. Children grew up learning about the devourers in school alongside mathematics and history. Every human knew their purpose: prepare for the war that would determine whether their species survived. Technology advanced at an incredible pace, driven by alien knowledge and human creativity. Scientists learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level, allowing them to create materials with impossible properties. Ships could phase in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing at will. Weapons were developed that could tear holes in reality itself. But the most important change was in human society. The Guardian Council evolved from a secret organization into an open government that spanned the entire solar system. Democracy remained, but all major decisions were made with the devourer threat in mind. Resources were allocated not for profit, but for survival. Education focused on creating the smartest, strongest generation possible. By the year 5000, humans had colonies on every major moon and planet in the solar system. Titan housed research facilities dedicated to biological warfare, studying ways to turn the devourer's own living ships against them. The moons of Saturn became training grounds where soldiers learned to fight in zero-gravity and hostile environments. Artificial intelligence reached new heights as humans realized they would need computer allies in the coming war. These AI systems were not servants, but partners designed to think and adapt as quickly as any human. They helped plan strategies and manage the vast logistical networks needed to supply a solar system-wide defense force. The last 1,000 years of preparation saw the completion of humanity's greatest project. Using a combination of alien technology and human innovation, engineers constructed a network of quantum tunneling devices throughout the solar system. These allowed instant travel between any 2 points, giving human forces mobility the devourers could never match. Deep space monitoring stations, hidden beyond the orbit of Pluto, watched for the first signs of the enemy fleet. These stations appeared to be simple research outposts, but contained the most sensitive detection equipment ever built. They would provide years of warning when the devourers finally arrived. By the year 6020, humanity was no longer the same species that had found the alien warning. They were taller, stronger, and smarter than their ancestors. Genetic improvements had eliminated most diseases and extended lifespans to several centuries. Brain implants allowed instant communication across vast distances and access to the combined knowledge of the species. Most importantly, humans had learned to work together. The old habits of competition and conflict had been replaced by cooperation and shared purpose. Every person understood that their individual survival depended on the survival of the species. Training began in childhood, with every human learning combat skills alongside traditional subjects. Admiral Chin Nakamura stood on the command deck of humanity's flagship, hidden in orbit around Jupiter. She was the latest in a long line of military commanders who had prepared their entire lives for a war they might never see. Born and raised in the asteroid belt, she had never known Earth's gravity or breathed natural air. Her life, like that of every human alive, was dedicated to a single goal. "Status report," she commanded. Her voice carried instantly to every human facility in the solar system through quantum communication links. "All stations ready, Admiral," came the response from Mars. "Colony ships are prepared for evacuation, if needed. Lunar defenses are online and waiting," reported Earth's moon. "Asteroid belt positions are secure," said the belt commanders. Chen nodded with satisfaction. For 1,000 years of preparation were nearly complete. Humanity had spread across the solar system like a vast trap, waiting for the devourers to spring it. They had built weapons the aliens could not imagine and developed tactics that had never been seen before. In the deep space monitoring stations, sensors detected the first gravitational disturbances that marked the approach of the enemy fleet. The readings were exactly what the alien database had predicted: massive objects moving at incredible speed toward Earth's solar system. Shin received the report with calm acceptance. After 40 centuries of preparation, humanity was finally about to discover if they had done enough. The greatest test in human history was about to begin, and there would be no second chances. The alarm klaxons echoed through every human settlement from Earth to the outer planets. After 4,000 years of waiting, the Devourers had finally arrived. Deep space sensors detected the massive fleet at the edge of the solar system, just as Akathani had predicted. Admiral Chin Nakamura stood in the command center buried deep beneath Europa's ice, surrounded by holographic displays showing the enemy approach. The Devourer fleet was enormous beyond imagination. Thousands of biomechanical ships, each one larger than Earth's moon, move in perfect formation toward the inner planets. Visual confirmation coming in now, reported Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. The main screen flickered to life, showing the alien vessels in terrifying detail. They looked like massive sea creatures crossed with machines, their hulls pulsing with organic rhythms. Tentacles and sensor arrays extended from their surfaces like the arms of some deep-sea monster. Chin had studied recordings of these ships her entire life, but seeing them in person made her stomach turn. Each vessel could hold billions of the Devourer creatures, and their weapons could crack planets in half. The alien database had been clear about their power, but the reality was still overwhelming. How many ships are we looking at? Chin asked, though she already knew the answer would be bad. Initial count shows approximately 8,000 vessels in the main fleet, Torres replied. Long-range scans indicate more ships arriving behind them. Total numbers could reach 15,000 or more. Around the command center, other officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency. This moment had been planned for since before their great-grandparents were born. Every person knew their role. Every system had been tested countless times. Humanity would not panic, even in the face of overwhelming odds. A new signal appeared on the communications array, and Chin nodded to her communications officer. Put them through to all human settlements. It's time everyone heard what we're dealing with. The main screen changed to show a creature that looked like a cross between an insect and a machine. Its voice was a harsh buzzing that the translation systems converted into understandable words. This was a Devourer, the species that had destroyed countless civilizations across the galaxy. Primitive inhabitants of this system, the creature announced, "You have been selected for harvesting. Surrender all resources and biological material immediately. Submit to processing, and your death will be swift. Resist, and we will take what we need by force, causing unnecessary suffering." The message continued with details about how humans should prepare for their own destruction. The Devourers spoke as if they were doing humanity a favor by offering quick death instead of slow consumption. They had given this same speech to thousands of other species over the millions of years of their existence. When the message ended, Chin activated the solar system-wide communication network. Every human settlement, every ship, every person would hear what came next. She had practiced these words for decades, just as every admiral before her had done. "This is Admiral Chin Nakamura of the Solar Defense Force," she began, her voice steady and strong. "I speak for all of humanity in response to your ultimatum." She paused for a moment, thinking of the billions of humans listening across the solar system, and of the 4,000 years of preparation that had led to this moment. No, the single word carried across space to the Devourer fleet and beyond, to every human outpost. Chun continued speaking, her voice growing stronger with each word. "You offer us death or slavery, as if these are the only choices. You have given us 4,000 years to prepare for your arrival. We thank you for your patience. Now let us show you what humans do with time." She cut the transmission and turned to her officers. "All units, proceed to Phase 1 positions. Launch the decoy fleet and activate the asteroid field defenses. It's time to see if our preparation was worth it." Across the solar system, humanity's true defenses began to reveal themselves. What had appeared to be simple mining ships and research stations suddenly transformed into combat vessels. Asteroids that had seemed empty opened to reveal massive weapons platforms. The entire asteroid belt came alive with activity as thousands of hidden bases powered up their systems. The Devourer fleet moved toward the inner planets with confident arrogance. Their sensors detected the approaching human ships and weapon platforms, but the readings showed technology far below their own level. The aliens expected this to be another easy harvest, just like all the others. The first battle began near Neptune's orbit when Devourer scouts encountered what appeared to be a small patrol of human ships. The aliens opened fire with weapons that could destroy cities, expecting to eliminate the primitive vessels instantly. Instead, the human ships simply vanished from normal space, reappearing behind the Devourer scouts and unleashing weapons that tore holes in reality itself. The Devourer scouts were destroyed in seconds, but not before they transmitted data back to their fleet. For the first time in their species' history, the Devourers faced an enemy that could match their technology. Admiral Chin watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The first phase was working perfectly. The Devourers thought they were fighting a conventional space battle, but humanity had no intention of playing by the old rules. Phase 2 is go, she announced. Begin the shell game. What followed confused any military strategist from humanity's past. Human ships appeared and disappeared seemingly at random, using quantum tunneling technology to strike from impossible angles. What looked like a single vessel would suddenly become 5 ships attacking from different directions. Weapons platforms disguised as space debris opened fire on the Devourer fleet before vanishing again. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy they could not predict or understand. Their massive firepower was useless if they could not target their opponents. Worse, the human weapons seemed designed specifically to counter Devourer technology. Bioships that had been invulnerable for millions of years found their living hulls dying from specially engineered viruses. On Europa, Chin received reports from across the solar system. The first engagements were going better than expected, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Devourers had not committed their main force yet, and their true power remained hidden. They're adapting faster than we hoped, reported her tactical officer. The newer ships in their fleet are showing resistance to our bioweapons. Chin nodded. She had expected this. The Devourers had not conquered a galaxy by being stupid. They would learn from these early losses and adjust their tactics. But humanity had prepared for that too. Begin Phase 3, she ordered. Time to show them what humans really learned in 4,000 years. The order went out across the quantum communication network, reaching every human commander simultaneously. In the outer solar system, massive shapes began moving from their hiding places behind planets and moons. These were humanity's battle stations, each one large enough to house millions of people, armed with weapons that bent the laws of physics. The real war was about to begin, and for the first time in their long history, the Devourers faced an enemy that had prepared specifically to fight them. The hunters were about to become the hunted. The war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. For millions of years, the Devourers had won through overwhelming force and superior technology. They would arrive at a system, demand surrender, and destroy any resistance with massive firepower. It had worked every single time. But humanity refused to fight the war the Devourers expected. Admiral Chin watched from her command center as reports flooded in from across the solar system. The main Devourer fleet had split into smaller groups, trying to attack multiple targets at once. It was their standard tactic, designed to overwhelm defenders who tried to protect everything. Mars base is under attack, reported Lieutenant Torres. 300 enemy ships approaching the planet. Chin smiled coldly. Execute Mars Protocol Omega. All personnel have 60 minutes to reach deep shelters. What happened next shocked the Devourer fleet to its core. As their ships closed in on Mars, preparing to strip the planet of resources and life, the planet itself became a weapon. Hidden fusion charges detonated deep within the Martian core, turning humanity's first colony into a massive bomb. The explosion tore Mars apart and consumed hundreds of Devourer ships in a blast of nuclear fire. The shockwave damaged hundreds more vessels and sent debris flying throughout the inner solar system. An entire Devourer attack group had been eliminated by an enemy willing to destroy their own world rather than let it be captured. Mars base reporting successful evacuation came the message from the surviving deep shelters. All personnel accounted for, ready for the next phase. The Devourers had never encountered an enemy willing to make such sacrifices. In their experience, species fought to preserve their worlds and cities. Humanity treated planets like weapons to be used and discarded when necessary. The war spread throughout the solar system as both sides adapted their strategies. The Devourers learned to approach human settlements more carefully, scanning for hidden explosives and traps. But humanity always seemed to be one step ahead, using tactics that made no sense to alien minds. Near Jupiter, the largest space battle in human history took place. The Devourers committed 2,000 ships to capturing the gas giant and its moons, expecting to overwhelm the human defenders through sheer numbers. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a carefully planned killing field. Human engineers had spent centuries modifying Jupiter's gravity well, using alien technology to create pockets of intense gravitational force throughout the planet's atmosphere. Devourer ships that entered these zones found themselves crushed like tin cans or torn apart by tidal forces. But the humans had also modified their own ships to operate in these extreme conditions. They appeared and disappeared within Jupiter's atmosphere like ghosts, striking at the confused alien fleet before vanishing back into gas clouds. The battle raged for months. The Devourers lost ship after ship to the gravitational traps, while human forces picked them off with hit and run attacks. Finally, the aliens were forced to withdraw, leaving behind thousands of destroyed vessels floating in Jupiter's radiation-soaked clouds. They're learning, Chen observed as she studied the tactical reports. Their newest ships are equipped with gravity shields and better sensors. They won't fall for the same tricks twice. Her aide, Commander Rodriguez, nodded grimly. Our intelligence networks report they're bringing in reinforcement fleets from other sectors. Total enemy strength could reach 30,000 ships within the next year. Chung was not discouraged. Humanity had planned for this possibility too. The war was entering its second phase, and it was time to reveal more of their hidden capabilities. Activate the asteroid belt defenses, she ordered. All stations, begin Operation Swarm. What followed was perhaps the strangest battle ever fought. The asteroid belt, which had appeared to be just a collection of rocks and mining stations, suddenly came alive. Thousands of asteroids revealed themselves as mobile weapons platforms, each one equipped with quantum tunneling drives and reality-warping weapons. The Devourer fleet found itself under attack by the belt itself. Asteroids would appear next to their ships, fire devastating weapons, then disappear before a turn fire could hit them. Some asteroids opened up to reveal massive ships that had been hidden inside for centuries. But the most terrifying part was how the asteroids worked together. They moved like a swarm of insects, coordinating their attacks through quantum communication networks. Individual Devourer ships found themselves surrounded by hundreds of small attackers, each one capable of inflicting serious damage. The aliens tried to destroy the asteroid belt with their most powerful weapons, but for every rock they shattered, 2 more took its place. The humans had prepared for this battle for thousands of years, and they had turned the entire belt into a single massive weapon system. As the war dragged on, the Devourers began to realize they were not fighting a typical space battle. The humans seemed to have prepared for every possible tactic, and their willingness to sacrifice their own resources was something the aliens could not understand. On Earth's moon, the hidden weapons platforms finally revealed themselves when a Devourer strike force attempted to capture humanity's home world. What the aliens thought was a simple satellite became a fortress that could have held off an entire fleet. Gravity cannons tore holes in space-time, crushing alien ships like paper. Energy weapons that drew power directly from Earth's sun melted through the strongest armor. The moon's surface opened to reveal launch bays filled with fighter craft that moved faster than anything the Devourers had ever seen. But the most shocking moment came when a group of human volunteers piloted damaged ships directly into the Devourer command vessels. These suicide attacks were carried out with calm precision, each pilot choosing death over defeat. The aliens had never encountered such dedication to victory. They fight like they're already dead, observed one Devourer commander in a transmission intercepted by human intelligence. How do you defeat an enemy that values victory more than survival? The war reached a turning point when human forces launched their first major offensive outside the solar system. Using quantum tunneling technology, entire fleets appeared in Devourer-controlled sectors without warning. They struck at supply bases and reinforcement fleets, then vanished before the aliens could respond. For the first time in millions of years, the Devourers found themselves on a defensive. Their empire, which had seemed invincible, was under attack by an enemy that appeared to be everywhere at once. Chin stood in her command center, now relocated to a massive battle station hidden in the Kuiper Belt, and watched the strategic displays with satisfaction. The war was far from over, but humanity had achieved something no other species had managed. They had hurt the Devourers badly enough to make them afraid. Enemy fleets are withdrawing from 3 sectors, reported Torres. Intelligence suggests they're regrouping for a final assault on Earth. Chin nodded. She had expected this. When the Devourers realized they could not win through conventional means, they would throw everything they had at humanity's home world. It would be the biggest battle in galactic history, and it would determine whether humans survived or joined the countless other species the Devourers had destroyed. Send word to all commands, she ordered. Phase 4 begins now. Bring everything home for the final battle. The war was about to reach its climax, and both sides knew only one species would survive. The final battle began when the largest Devourer fleet in galactic history appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. Over 50,000 ships, gathered from across their empire, moved toward humanity's home world with only one goal: complete extinction of the human species. Admiral Chin stood on the bridge of the human flagship, now revealed as a massive vessel that had been disguised as a small moon orbiting Jupiter. Around Earth, the planet's entire defense network came online for the first time since it was built 4,000 years ago. All human fleets report ready, announced Commander Rodriguez. Every ship we have is in position. Military Command estimates we have 12,000 vessels ready for combat. Chin nodded, studying the tactical display. The numbers were not in humanity's favor, but numbers had never been the point. Everything depended on whether their final secret weapon would work as planned. The Devourer command ship led the alien fleet toward Earth. It was enormous, even by their standards, larger than some moons, containing millions of the creatures and enough firepower to crack planets. Its presence alone was meant to terrify humanity into surrender. Instead, Chin opened communications to the entire solar system and beyond. Every human settlement, every AI network, every consciousness that had prepared for this moment would hear her words. 4,000 years ago, a dying race gave us a warning and a gift, she began. They told us that monsters were coming, and they gave us the knowledge to fight them. Today, we prove that their sacrifice was not in vain. She paused, looking at the faces of her bridge crew, people who had trained their entire lives for this battle. Today, humanity shows a galaxy that some prey refused to be eaten. The battle began when the Devourer fleet opened fire with weapons that could sterilize continents. Energy beams and gravity bombs fell toward Earth like rain. But instead of striking the planet, the attacks hit massive shield generators that had been hidden beneath the ocean floors and inside mountain ranges. Earth's entire surface became a web of protective energy, absorbing and redirecting the alien weapons. What should have been a killing blow became harmless light that scattered into space. The Devourers pressed their attack, sending wave after wave of ships toward the planet. But as they closed in, humanity's true defenses revealed themselves. The space around Earth filled with human vessels that seemed to appear from nowhere, using quantum tunneling technology to strike from impossible angles. But the real surprise came when the first Devourer ships reached Earth's atmosphere. They found themselves unable to move, trapped by gravitational fields that defied every law of physics they understood. Human scientists had learned to manipulate gravity itself, turning it into a weapon more powerful than any bomb. "Gravity web is holding," reported the science officer. "Enemy ships are completely immobilized." Chun watched as thousands of Devourer vessels hung helpless in space, caught like flies in a web made of warped space-time. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. But the aliens were not finished. The massive command ship began charging its most powerful weapon, a device that could destroy entire star systems. If it fired, nothing would survive, not even the Devourers themselves. "They're willing to commit suicide to take us with them," Rodriguez observed. Chin smiled coldly. "Then, we'll have to stop them first. Begin Operation Singularity. What happened next would be remembered for millions of years." Using technology that surpassed even the Cathani knowledge, human ships began to focus their gravity manipulators on a single point in space. The area around Devourer command ship began to warp and twist as space-time itself bent under impossible forces. The alien vessel tried to escape, but it was too late. The humans had learned to create artificial black holes, and they were collapsing the command ship into one. "Gravitational cascade is stable," reported the science officer. "Event horizon is forming." The Devourer command ship, with all its millions of crew members and planet-killing weapons, was compressed into a point smaller than an atom. The artificial black hole lasted only seconds before evaporating, but it took the alien command with it. The remaining Devourer fleet, suddenly leaderless and faced with an enemy that could manipulate gravity itself, began to panic. Some ships tried to flee, while others attempted suicide attacks. All of them failed. Human forces, no longer hiding their true capabilities, revealed themselves throughout the solar system. Millions of ships that had been disguised as asteroids, space stations, or planetary features joined the battle. The Devourers found themselves outnumbered for the first time in their species' history. "This is Admiral Chen to all Devourer vessels," she broadcast on their command frequencies. "You have two choices. Surrender immediately and face judgment for your crimes, or be destroyed where you stand. Choose quickly." The response was immediate. Some alien ships powered down their weapons and transmitted surrender signals. Others tried to fight, and were systematically destroyed by human forces that seemed to be everywhere at once. But the war was far from over. Intelligence reports showed that Devourer fleets throughout the galaxy were moving toward Earth, called by distress signals from the defeated force. Within months, hundreds of thousands of alien ships would arrive. Chun was ready for them. "All fleet commanders, begin Operation Liberation. It's time to take the fight to them." What followed was the most ambitious military campaign in galactic history. Human fleets, now numbering in the millions, spread throughout the galaxy using quantum tunneling technology. They appeared in Devourer-controlled systems without warning, offering the same choice Chin had given at Earth: surrender or destruction. Many Devourer groups chose to fight, believing they could still win through superior numbers. They learned quickly that humanity had become something far more dangerous than they had ever faced. Human weapons could destroy entire fleets in seconds, and human tactics made traditional space warfare obsolete. But some aliens chose surrender, and these prisoners revealed the locations of every Devourer base and fleet in the galaxy. For the first time, humanity learned the true scope of the alien empire and began planning its complete destruction. The campaign took 50 years. Human forces moved from system to system, dismantling the Devourer empire piece by piece. Some battles were massive space conflicts involving millions of ships. Others were surgical strikes that eliminated key targets without firing a shot. The final Devourer stronghold fell when human forces surrounded their home system and offered the surviving aliens a choice: exile to a reservation world under human supervision or complete extinction. Most chose exile. Ambassador Sarah Chinokafor stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, representing over 300 species that had been liberated from Devourer control. In her hands, she held the same crystalline data core that had started humanity's journey 4,000 years earlier. "For millions of years, this galaxy lived in fear," she said to the assembled delegates. "Species hid on their worlds, hoping the monsters would pass them by. Those days are over." She activated the crystal, and it projected the image of the Cathani who had given humanity their warning. But now the hologram showed new information: coordinates of other galaxies where the Devourers might have spread, locations of ancient knowledge caches, and the histories of civilizations that had been lost. "The Cathani gave us the tools to survive," Sarah continued. "Now we give those tools to all of you. Never again will any species face extinction alone. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to establish the Human Protection Fleet, with bases throughout the galaxy and the authority to protect any world from external threats. Humanity had become the apex predator, but they chose to use their power to protect rather than destroy. Former devourer territory was redistributed to species that had lost their homes. New colonies were established with human protection and alien technology. The galaxy entered an age of cooperation and growth that would last for millions of years. Sarah looked out the delegates and smiled. The universe is vast and full of wonders, and it belongs to all of us now. The former prey had become the guardians, and the galaxy would never be the same.